Thanks so much, Noor. I'm not used to being on this side of a press conference, but I'm here because Daniel Hale should not be in prison. Whistleblowers are not spies, no matter what the Espionage Act says. It's a symptom of a broader institutional sickness in our government that a 100-year-old law passed during a previous era of American war hysteria conflates the two things. I've spent 20 years of my life reporting on our current era of American war hysteria, known as the War on Terror. Most of the stories I'm proudest of having reported involved someone like Daniel Hale, someone inside the military, intelligence services, law enforcement, or their associated contractors recognizes a grave mistake, injustice, or crime occurring within their organizations. That mistake, injustice, or crime often has official approval, explicit or implied, which usually means the mistake, injustice, or crime is concealed from the public or presented within a misleading narrative. The official channels for voicing internal objections are rigged to perpetuate the mistake, injustice, or crime. The people who see them experience a crisis of conscience. They react to it the way we tell ourselves honorable people, people we want to be, people we raise our children to be like, would act. They don't look past it, even though that's the easiest and the safest option. They put themselves in jeopardy to expose it to the public, and they do so as an act of faith in their fellow citizens, that we are a free people and we are brave enough to stop the harms that our leaders commit in our name. And there's a long lineage of whistleblowers that Daniel Hale is a part of. But when I think of him, I think of soldiers in Afghanistan a dozen years ago who came up to talk with me when they heard there was a reporter on their base. They wanted to talk because they didn't understand how what they were ordered to do made any sense, or the explanations that they got from their commanders seemed to insult their intelligence. Meanwhile, on that same reporting trip, I interviewed generals who spoke confidently about how what they were ordering those soldiers to do would yield something like victory. And those soldiers spoke to me, even though they could be disciplined for an unauthorized talk to journalists, because they wanted the people they loved back home to know that the war was neither winnable nor worth fighting. People like that may not necessarily leak classified documents, but they're on a continuum with those who do, because they're trying to fix something that's gone terribly wrong. If people like Daniel were the spies the Espionage Act implies, if they were out to harm or humiliate the United States, they would have peddled what they know to a hostile intelligence service. Daniel was a drone operator. He worked with the Joint Special Operations Command. Think of how valuable, how lucrative his brain would be to a foreign adversary. Instead, he's convicted of revealing to journalists ways that the wartime panopticon built by the US after 9/11 can kill people, or in the case of government watch listing, obliterate their civil rights. It's a grim and unforgivable irony of the war on terror that the slogan, "If you see something, say something," doesn't apply to people with a close-up view of the horrors and injustices committed in the name of counterterrorism. Daniel should be out here riding his motorcycle. The country that trained and then imprisoned him should be dismantling the operations and the institutions of the war on terror, now that President Biden and so many other political leaders claim the 9/11 era is over. In August 2021, defending the withdrawal from Afghanistan, the president remarked, "As we turn on the page on the foreign policy that has guided our nation the last 2 decades, we've got to learn from our mistakes." Mr. President, learning from our mistakes requires you to free Daniel Hale. If you don't commute his sentence, we're only turning the page on someone who tried to get us to learn from those mistakes. Thank you very much.